I gave my stepdaughter my college fund when her dad refused to help her tuition. 2 years later, I walked into my own house and saw my husband massaging our nanny's feet while my stepdaughter filmed it, laughing. "We've been meaning to talk to you," he said. "You're just too much lately." I moved out that night. 3 months later, I crashed their engagement party with a letter from immigration and a lawyer in a red dress. I, 49 female, have always been the type of person who puts others first. Maybe too much. My husband, Daniel, 53 male, used to say that's what he loved about me. How selfless I was. How I held the family together. He used to say that a lot until I wasn't useful to him anymore. This started years ago when I met Daniel. He was divorced, raising a daughter, Lily, who was 10 at the time. Her mom had left when Lily was little. Daniel always said she just ran off, but I found out later he'd been cheating. I should have walked away then. But I didn't. I thought people could change. I thought I love fix things. Lily was distant at first. I understood why. I didn't try to replace her mom. I just showed up. I helped with homework. Took her to the doctor. Went to every school event, even when Daniel couldn't be bothered. She didn't say thank you often, but when she got older, we got close. Or I thought we did. Daniel was never the nurturing type. He provided, yes. Paid the bills. But emotionally? Cold. Detached. He never went to her parent-teacher nights, never asked about her day. He liked looking like a good dad more than being one. When Lily got into college, a state school here in South Carolina, she was over the moon. She wanted to study psychology. She'd worked hard, stayed out of trouble. But when it came time to talk tuition, Daniel told her no. Flat out refused. Said he wasn't throwing money away on some gender studies garbage. She cried, pleaded, offered to pay him back. He didn't budge. I watched her fall apart. I couldn't take it. I had a college fund set aside. I'd been saving since before I met Daniel, hoping to go back to school someday. I gave it to Lily. All of it. It wasn't a huge amount, just under $40,000, but enough to cover her first couple years, and then some. She cried, hugged me, told me I was the only one who ever believed in her. She said she'd never forget it. Daniel? He rolled his eyes and called it your money, your mistake. Fast forward 2 years. Lily was in her junior year. She barely visited. When she did, it was short and awkward. I chalked it up to her being busy. Daniel was colder than ever. Always snapping at me. Always on his phone. I'd ask how his day was and he'd grunt. That was it. We had a live-in nanny at the time, Marisol. It wasn't normal, I know, but my niece, my sister's daughter, was staying with us after my sister had a breakdown. Marisol helped watch her while I recovered from surgery. Marisol was soft-spoken, polite. She cooked sometimes, kept to herself. I didn't suspect anything. One Thursday, I came home early. I remember the exact time, 3:17 p.m. I walked into the house, quiet like always. But this time, I heard laughing. Not just any laugh. Lily's laugh. Sharp. Mean. I walked into the living room and froze. Daniel was on the couch. Marisol had her feet in his lap. He was massaging them like it was the most normal thing in the world. Lily stood to the side, phone up, recording. When they saw me, no one jumped. No one acted surprised. Daniel looked up and said, "We've been meaning to talk to you." Then he added, "You're just too much lately." Too much. That's what he said after 12 years of marriage. After raising his daughter like my own. After giving her my future. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked upstairs, packed one bag, and left. I drove to my sister's in Colombia. I didn't call him. He didn't call me. I stayed quiet for 3 months. During that time, I got a lawyer. A really good one. She specialized in family law and immigration. Why immigration? Because Marisol wasn't just some nanny. She was Daniel's fiancée. They got engaged 2 weeks after I left. And yes, Daniel and I were still married. He hadn't filed for divorce. He didn't even try. He thought I'd just disappear. Lily moved back in with them. Started calling Marisol bonus mom on Instagram. Said I was toxic. Said I manipulated her into taking my money. I watched it all quietly. I screenshotted everything. Then I found out they were planning an engagement party. At my house. The one still in my name. Daniel hadn't bought me out. He never even asked. So I made a plan. I didn't crash the party in some dramatic movie way. No yelling, no slapping. I arrived quietly with my lawyer. She wore a red dress. Not a coincidence. I asked her to. I handed the event coordinator a manila envelope. Told her to give it to Daniel during the toast. He opened it in front of everyone. Inside was a letter from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Turns out, helping someone lie on immigration forms? Big deal. Along with that, he got served court papers. Marital fraud. Fraudulent transfer of assets. Oh, and a petition to freeze our joint accounts. I walked out without saying a word. Lily chased me to the parking lot, screaming that I was ruining her life. That Marisol was pregnant. That I'd destroyed her family. I looked her in the eye and said, "You destroyed mine first." After that night, everything changed. The party fell apart. Daniel tried to do damage control, but people were already whispering. Someone recorded the moment he opened that envelope, and it ended up on Facebook. My old neighbor sent it to me with a one-line message. "Holy hell, you really did it." Daniel tried to act like it was a misunderstanding. Told people I was just bitter about the divorce. But the truth was louder. The legal mess was just beginning. My lawyer filed motions to freeze the accounts because Daniel had been moving money around. I found out he'd transferred nearly $30,000 from one of our joint savings into a house renovation fund, which didn't exist. Marisol had apparently borrowed it for a family emergency in Mexico. That transfer violated our marriage financial agreement. He thought I'd never notice. The court sided with me. Accounts frozen. Assets under review. Daniel called me once. Just once. He said, "What do you want from me?" I told him the truth. "I want you to watch everything you built on lies fall apart in slow motion." He hung up. Then came the second twist. Marisol's immigration issue wasn't just about paperwork. Her visa had already expired when she started working for us. Daniel had lied on her employment verification to extend her stay. He claimed she worked full-time for another family. Not only that, but he'd paid her under the table. No taxes, no records. USCIS flagged the case for possible deportation. She was given a hearing date. They hired a new lawyer. A young guy, slick hair, too much confidence. Tried to argue that Daniel and Marisol were in a legitimate relationship. Too bad for them, I had proof they'd been lying for years. Photos, emails, timeline inconsistencies. Even texts from Marisol to Lily saying things like, "Once she's gone, it'll finally be our home." They thought I was just some bitter ex-wife. They didn't realize I had every receipt. But here's the part one didn't expect. Lily. She came to my sister's house one afternoon. Showed up crying. At first, I didn't want to let her in. But she was shaking. Looked like she hadn't slept in days. She told me Daniel had hit her. Slapped her across the face during an argument. Called her an ungrateful little brat. Said she'd ruined everything by getting involved. I didn't believe her at first. Then she showed me the bruise. Right under her eye. She said, "I thought she was going to be my mom. I thought he loved her, but he's not who I thought he was." I didn't hug her. I didn't cry. I said, "Now you know how I felt." She stayed the night. Told me everything. Told me how Daniel had planned to divorce me quietly after he married Marisol. How he thought I was too uptight. Too demanding. Said I suffocated him with kindness. Marisol didn't care. She was in it for the green card and the lifestyle. Daniel promised her he'd sell the house, move to Mexico with her, and start fresh. He wanted to leave the country before I could finish the divorce process. That's why the party had been so rushed. That's why they got engaged while we were still married. He was trying to run. I gave all this to my lawyer. Every text, every detail. She filed for emergency action with the court. The judge ordered Daniel to stay in the state, confiscated his passport. Then came the audit. The IRS got involved. The fraudulent employment records, the money laundering under house expenses, even his business accounts, all of it under investigation. He started to crack. And it wasn't over yet. Daniel cracked faster than anyone expected. 2 weeks after the court froze our accounts, I got an email from his attorney. He wanted to negotiate. He was suddenly open to a quick divorce settlement. He offered to sign over the house, waive spousal support, and give me half his business assets. It sounded generous. Too generous. My lawyer and I knew something was off. So we dug deeper. Turns out Daniel was in much deeper trouble than I thought. That logistics company he worked for? He wasn't just an employee, he'd been running a side hustle through it for years. A shipping scam. Fake invoices. Ghost clients. Some of the money that passed through those fake accounts had been routed internationally. Enough to trigger red flags at the federal level. He was being investigated for tax fraud and possible wire fraud. When the IRS started freezing assets, Marisol disappeared. Just gone. No warning. Lily told me Marisol had packed a suitcase the night before and left a note. I love you, but I can't go to prison for you. Even she wasn't dumb enough to stick around. Daniel lost it. He called Lily in the middle of the night, ranting about how she was the only family he had left. She blocked his number. He tried to contact me through a mutual friend. Told her to pass on a message. Tell her I never meant to hurt her. Tell her I'm ruined. I didn't respond. 3 days later, I got another surprise. A letter from the university Lily was attending. It was addressed to me. Inside was a refund. Lily had formally withdrawn from the spring semester after the engagement party disaster, and since part of the tuition came from my account, I'd paid directly. The refund went to me. It wasn't much. Just over $4,000. But it felt symbolic. I used that money to enroll in night classes. Not for her. For me. I started my degree in counseling like I'd always wanted. One class at a time. Lily stayed with my sister for a while. We talked, but I never let her move in with me. I wasn't ready. I didn't trust her. She said, I just wanted someone to love me. He made me believe you never did. I said he was wrong. And so were you. She cried. I didn't. Then came the final hit. A news article popped up on the local paper's website. Charleston business owner faces federal charges for tax evasion and visa fraud. It had Daniel's picture. Turns out the feds had enough to formally charge him. And someone, probably Marisol, had given them all the records they needed. She flipped on him. He was arrested 2 weeks later. That same day, my divorce was finalized. But my story wasn't finished. Not yet. The day Daniel got arrested, I didn't celebrate. I sat in silence. The TV was off. My phone buzzed with messages from neighbors and old coworkers, people who had watched from the sidelines, pretending not to know. Now they all had something to say. You were right all along. Justice is finally here. He got what he deserved. But none of that made me feel better. Because I had spent 12 years building a life with someone who saw me as a tool. A convenience. A stepping stone. And I let him. That was my mistake. I didn't listen to the signs. I ignored the distance. The cruelty in his jokes. The way Lily's attitude toward me started to shift once Marisol came around. I wanted to believe I was doing the right thing. That I could fix people. That if I gave enough, loved enough, stayed loyal enough, they'd come around. But they didn't. Daniel was denied bail. Turns out, He'd already bought 2 plane tickets out of the country, one for himself, one under a fake name. He was a flight risk. He spent the next 6 months waiting in county jail while the feds built their case. Marisol never came back. She cooperated with the feds, got a deal, and was quietly deported after testifying. I heard through the grapevine that she's back in Jalisco, trying to start over. I don't wish her well, but I don't waste time on her either. Lily tried to pick up the pieces. She stayed in therapy, got a part-time job, tried to go back to school, but something in her changed. I think seeing Daniel without the mask shattered whatever story she told herself about her family. We talk sometimes, but I keep a distance. She burned me too. Not like Daniel did, but in her own way. I sold the house. After the divorce, I was awarded full ownership, and Daniel was ordered to pay back the money he'd moved without my consent. Of course, with prison on the horizon, that money wasn't coming anytime soon. So I sold the house, packed up the last of my things, left behind the kitchen where I cooked for a man who said I was too much, the living room where I watched his daughter grow up, the hallway where I once found Marisol laughing on the phone late at night. I didn't cry. I just closed the door. Then came the sentencing. 18 months later, I stood in the back of the courtroom as Daniel sat there in a wrinkled suit, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. The judge read the charges. Tax evasion, immigration fraud, wire fraud. He got 8 years. 8 years in federal prison. Lily sat on the other side of the courtroom. She didn't look at him. Daniel turned once, searching for a friendly face. He didn't find one. After the hearing, I walked out and stood under the cold gray sky. My lawyer came up beside me. "You finally got your ending," she said. "No," I said. "I got my beginning." Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It's taking your life back inch by inch. It's starting school at 50 because you finally believe in yourself again. It's walking out of court and never looking back. And it's knowing the people who once used you will never have that power again. Not ever.